After the wise men left, a messenger of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up, take the child and his mother, and head to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you it is safe to leave. For Herod understands that Jesus threatens him and all he stands for. He is planning to search for the child and kill him, but you will be safe in Egypt." So Joseph got up in the middle of the night. He bundled up Mary and Jesus, and they left for Egypt. After a few months had passed, Herod realized he had been tricked. The wise men were not coming back. Herod, of course, was furious. He simply ordered that all boys who lived in or near Bethlehem and were 2 years of age and younger be killed. He knew the baby king was this age because of what the wise men had told him. This sad event had long been foretold by the prophet Jeremiah. Joseph, Mary, and Jesus stayed in Egypt until Herod died. This fulfilled yet another prophecy. The prophet Hosea once wrote, "Out of Egypt I called my son."
And so now we hear the reading from Hosea, which is talked about in that scripture. Again, like I said at the beginning, it's kind of a lament. God's heart is broken for what's going on in God's kingdom. In the last couple weeks, we heard about Israel being torn apart into two separate kingdoms because on the one side, there was a tyrant king who would not listen to his people, and rather than being merciful, piled on more and more and more work. So you had a faction of people who separated off, but then those people who separated off, because their hearts were broken, decided not to believe in God anymore and decided to go about life in their own way and actually turn to other gods. And in the midst of all of that fighting, in the midst of that insecurity, then a new power rises up, the Assyrians, and they're coming and they're about to take over both of their kingdoms. And people are going to be hurt, people are going to be displaced. And as the prophet Hosea is watching this, seeing the impending doom that's coming, he voices out this in God's voice and says, God's heart is breaking for us. So listen to this reading from Hosea, the 11th chapter. God said, "When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. But the more I called to Israel, the more they walked away from me. They kept on sacrificing to other divine masters and burning incense to idols. But I was the one who taught Ephraim to walk, holding him up by his arms, but his people didn't know that I was the one who took care of them. I led them with leather cords, with ropes of love. I showed them the way. As I dealt with them, I lifted the yoke from their neck. I bent down to give them their food. The people of Israel will return to bondage like they knew in the land of Egypt, and this time Assyria will be their king because they refused to return to me. The sword will be turned loose in their cities. It will destroy their defenses and put an end to them because of their schemes. My people are determined to turn away from me. And even when they call out to the Most High, he won't be able to rescue them." And God says, "But how can I give up on you, Ephraim? How can I turn you over to your enemies, Israel? How can I give you away as I did Admah or treat you like Zeboim? My heart is changed within me, and all at once my compassion is stirred up. I will not carry out my burning anger. I will not destroy Ephraim completely, for I am God, not a human being. I am the Holy One in your midst, and I won't unleash my anger for an attack." This is the word of the Lord. So like I said at the beginning, this is a lament. God's heart is broken at what's happening. I mean, did you hear the grief in that? I was there. I was there when they were born. I was there to help them. I was there to get them out of Egypt. I was there. And yet, they just still don't get it. They still don't want to trust me. They still don't want to love me. They still want to turn to other gods or just themselves. And so God is grieving because the Assyrians are coming. The Assyrians are coming, and there's going to be nothing that they can do about it, and God's heart is breaking. And this week, as I was working on this sermon and thinking about this wall, and thinking about the many walls that we put up between each other, I was thinking, you know what? I think God's heart is still grieved today. That God might be looking and saying, look, I have done everything I could to show them the type of love that they should be showing one another. I sent my son, Jesus Christ, to the cross and showed them that no matter what, I was going to love them. I showed them that even if they were to spit on me, if they were to whip me, if they were to beat me, if they were to pretend to be my friends for a while and leave me in my most vulnerable moment, I would still say to them, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. God came to show them this amazing type of love, and I came to eat with prostitutes and to work with tax collectors. I came to work amongst the people that they would reject the most. I came to show them that love goes beyond even the inside group, to go to people outside of Israel. I went and I spoke about Good Samaritans, something they couldn't dream about, and I went and I showed them that it was possible to love women in public. I even one time, Jesus said, look, here's a woman who's been bleeding, who touched me. And I dared to talk to her in front of a group of people to show them that it's okay. It's okay to love people who are on the outskirts of society, and they still don't get it. They still try to put up so many walls between each other, between me and them, between them and the creation around them. I could see God grieving and looking, look, they haven't learned. And now look what's happening with creation. I gave them this beautiful planet that would provide enough food and water for everyone. And look what they've done with it. Look what they've done with it. The air is hard to breathe. The waters are difficult to live in. They need to be cleaned up. The trees are burning. The climate is out of control. Things are getting hotter and colder and weirder, and storms are getting worse. God's heart must be breaking. And I got kind of depressed this week. That was too much to sit with, right? I mean, as I was thinking about all the different things that God's heart could possibly be breaking for, I got to thinking, but wait a minute, where's the good news in all this? Where's the good news in all of this? But then I remember there's a difference between lament and despair. There's a difference between lament and despair, because in despair, there's no hope. In despair, there's no relationships. In despair, you're alone, and there's nothing to turn to. In lament, we still have a relationship with God. In lament, it ends like this lament did, where God says, you know what? Despite everything, my heart changes. Despite everything, I have compassion for you. Despite everything, I still love you. Despite everything, I'm still going to keep on showering you with my love. And so despite the laments, despite the heartache, despite the bitterness that you might taste because of what's going on in the world, we still have hope. We still have hope because we have a relationship with God, because we do believe in a God that came down to say that there is a different way to live in the world. We have hope. We don't dive into despair. We don't just sit alone in our homes thinking, well, there's nothing left to do. But rather, because we have faith, we have hope, and because we have hope, we have energy and enthusiasm, and we stand up and we can get out into the world and say, you know what, we can do this differently. We can be God's hands in this world, that the world doesn't have to be headed for disaster. We can take our lights and make them LED to save some energy And that's what we've been doing. And we can think about how much do we have our lights on? Can we save some energy that way? And we can think about if we need to redo a parking lot, can we do that the right way? Instead of just paving it over and just using a whole lot of oil on top of it to make it hotter? Is there ways that we could live differently in the world? Is there ways that we could advocate for those who are struggling? Is there ways that we could advocate for good laws? Is there ways that we could go out and feed those who are hungry and provide shelter for those who are homeless? And that's what we've been doing. That's what this church does. That's what this church is known for. So despite lament, we still have hope and we have energy and we can keep on sharing God's love because of faith, because of relationships, because of Jesus Christ. And that's why it's so great that we had a baptism today to remind us of the promises, right? That God said once and for all, I will be with you. There's nothing that you're ever going to do that will make me turn away from you. I will love you and I will shower you with my love. But that comes with your promise too, to say that you're going to live a different way. That you're going to show the world that we don't have to put up boundaries between us and one another, that we can be a church that loves people of color, that loves people who are coming and moving here from different places, who maybe speak or don't speak the local language, that we're going to be God's people who loves the resident alien. We're going to be God's people who are willing to take the walls down that separate us, to make them crumble, to say, you know what, God is here for me, God is here for you, God is here for creation, and because of that, we don't fall into despair. We can lament, and we can express heartbreak, but we also have faith and energy and live and dare to live a different way in this world. And so I charge you today, I challenge you to think about what do you think breaks God's heart today, but then don't let yourself stay there. Don't let yourself stay there, but rather think, how can I be God's hands? How can I be God's feet? How can I participate in doing better? If you look and you say, gosh, God's heart must be breaking because we're not taking care of the world, then you might look at yourself and say, okay, what can I do? What can I do better? Can I eat less meat, maybe? Not as often? Can I change the type of energy I use? Can I spend a little more money and buy an electric car as opposed to a gas-guzzling thing that gets 10 miles to the gallon? What can I do? I mean, because it's in our hands now. God says you don't have to stay. You don't have to stay in despair. We can lament, and then we can do better. We can do better. So think about yourself. What do you think God's heart is breaking for? And then don't stay in that lament, but rather let yourself live in hope and in love and share God's love in the world, because this world certainly needs it. Amen.